Versatile Mage. Chapter 531. The Nomination Tournament. Lintong Headquarters. The military instructor Fei Zhao had assigned to coach the Special Forces soldiers sat down on the training ground, right under the flag. Where did the news come from? One of the villages outside of the safe zone. I think it's called Hua Village. The villagers said that they saw torn clothes on ripped apart bodies when they walked past them somewhere nearby during the day. Judging from the clothes, we can basically say that the squad was completely wiped out, said the soldier who was delivering the information. Ha! Rescue team, that was more like a suicide team. Which asshole was it that sent my men out there? Cursed Fei Zhao as he quickly rose to his feet. Instructor, calm down. How can I? Those who died are my students. What do I tell Zan Kong now? Yelled Fei Zhao furiously. He pointed at the buildings nearby and started cursing, from his superior to his subordinates, as if he had gone mad. The commanders in the meeting room did not dare to show themselves. Fei Zhao was firing the shots at pretty much everyone. Go. Assemble a team. Bring 'em back, either alive or dead, said Fei Zhao to the soldier. Instructor, please calm down. They have most likely stumbled into a dark abyss. Otherwise, they would not be wiped out even if they merely bumped into a corpse general. What? What did you say? Fei Zhao was startled. The dark abyss, they were chased by something, and somehow ended up close to a dark abyss. Even those with wind elements did not survive. Dark abyss. Why is that thing appearing? Blurted out the instructor, his eyes wide and face blank. The dark abyss, it was exactly like hell. Even the strongest magician in the entire ancient capital had no chance of surviving after falling into one. Fei Zhao would not blink if he was told to enter the dragon's pond or the tiger's lair, but the dark abyss, it was not just a simple death, but falling straight into hell. Instructor, instead of making a scene here, you should notify the families of the dead. I've checked his background. Zhang Xiaohou came from Bo City. He grew up without his parents. It was his grandmother who raised him. Even though she survived the calamity of Bo City, she's approaching the end of her life. As for Zhang Xiaohou, you might want to tell him yourself. He also has a close friend, who should be the closest to him apart from his grandmother. Should I tell them the news? Asked the soldier. Zan Kong has gone missing. How am I supposed to find him? As for his grandmother, don't tell her yet, she's already so old, Fei Zhao continued after a sigh. As for his friend, I'll try to find Zan Kong first. If I can't find him, we'll let his friend know. Instructor, don't do anything stupid, that's the dark abyss. God knows how many lives would be needed to fill it up. I know that. Piss off from my sight. Every time I see you, there's always bad news. The Magic City. Cold wind blew overhead. The city was filled with coughs everywhere, most likely due to the new flu that was spreading around. Why don't you close the window when you go to bed? Asked Ai Tutu as she glanced into Mo Fan's room. I'm a fire magician, and I also have a little mobile furnace lying beside me. I prefer the fresh air when the windows open. Mo Fan sat in front of the computer and scrolled across the web pages, looking for interesting news related to the ancient capital. The world was full of disastrous events. In his original world, there were natural disasters, but in this world, the disasters were usually invasions of demon beasts. Ai Tutu proceeded to mock Mo Fan when she saw the guy suddenly become interested in affairs in the country. Mo Fan turned off the computer and looked back at Ai Tutu. His gaze blithely swept past her busty chest before he replied sternly, did you just say that everyone ranked in the top 20 in every school has a chance to enter the nomination preliminaries for the World College Tournament? Yeah. Didn't you notice that Sister Mu has been cultivating in seclusion for a long time already? Said Ai Tutu. She did improve very quickly. Mo Fan nodded. Mo Fan was fairly impressed by Mu Nujiao's determination. He did not see her much for the past few months, and every time they met, the girl always asked for a duel. It was most likely because the formidable faction supporting Mu Nujiao had decided to focus on helping her enter the World College Tournament. Not only did she have 2 high-quality soul seeds, all the equipment she was wearing was luxurious too. Tutu had also told him that Mu Nujiao still had a trump card up her sleeve. She was preparing to use it as a surprise move during the nomination preliminaries. Mo Fan was looking forward to seeing it. Thinking about it, Mu Nujiao's Mu clan was one of the 4 great clans in Magic City. It went without saying that they would want to compete for the spot. Similarly, the extremely wealthy Zhao clan was in a similar situation too. Even the playboy Zhao Manyan had turned into a different person, always busy with some secret training. Zhao Manyan was most likely not going to compete for the spot offered by the institute. However, even if he were trying to earn a spot somewhere else, he still had to work extremely hard. Regardless of having a formidable faction supporting him, the number of competitors was like a vast ocean. Without a certain level of capability, they had no chance of standing out among the candidates. Basically, everyone who was planning to compete for the chance of being nominated for the World College Tournament had turned into a cultivation lunatic. As for Tutu, this young mistress from a wealthy family had a huge bust, but little to no goals. She continued to enjoy life, but since her close friend had devoted herself to the path of cultivation, she was bored to death. Mo Fan was a seeded candidate, thus he could skip the nomination preliminaries if he wanted to. The others had all gone to cultivate, only Mo Fan was still slacking around, which was why Tutu had been staying with Mo Fan lately, hoping that he would find something fun for her to do. Speaking of which, I suggest you take part in the nomination preliminaries too. Tutu was not planning to take part in them, but she was fairly familiar with the event. Why is that? Asked Mo Fan. You currently have 3 votes, which is basically no different than a provisional candidate, yet you still need to get a 4th vote somehow. If you manage to get the nomination, you basically earn yourself another vote. First, no one will be able to stop you from securing a spot, and second, you can also shut the mouths of those who are doubting you, Tutu declared. Mo Fan nodded. He agreed with her reasoning. Not everyone was aware of how he got the 3 votes in the first place, thus they would assume that he was merely being favored by someone. As a result, they would not be convinced of his qualifications. Meanwhile, Mo Fan had always liked fighting. The nomination preliminaries would definitely involve the strongest students in the entire institute. If he did not take hold of the opportunity and trample some of those disrespectful idiots, wouldn't he simply let the black snake armor, which he still hadn't used, and the flame bell, who had finally reached her youth stage, down? As the saying went, a dragon gave birth to dragons, a phoenix gave birth to phoenixes, and the sons of mice were experts at digging holes. Even though Mo Fan did not give birth to the flame bell, out of all his resources, she was somehow better at stirring up trouble than her father. The little flame bell was a huge fan of getting into fights. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 532. Impersonating. The nomination preliminaries. Pearl Institute had 10 nominations in total. Those who were nominated still needed to go through another 2 rounds of competition before deciding the candidates. The rules of the nomination preliminaries were fairly simple. It would simply gather those in the top 20 in every element school to duel with one another. Most interestingly, the duel was not only 1 versus 1, but 4 versus 4, with randomly assigned teams. Each student who was participating in the nomination preliminaries would team up with 3 other participants temporarily and fight against 3 other teams. Although the outcome of the battle would affect their chance of being selected, losing the battle did not mean all hope was lost. The overall rankings inside the institute were not decided through battles between the different elements, since one element would be more effective against some elements, and ineffective or neutral against others. Everyone in the institute was an intermediate magician, so they would only have 2 elements at most. Those with only defensive or healing elements would never be able to climb the rankings, yet those magicians were always the most important people in a team. As a result, the institute had made the nomination preliminaries a team battle instead. Every duel would have 3 referees, and each of them had 8 points to spare. Regardless of the outcome of the battle, those who performed better would be given more points. The participants with the highest points would be nominated, and the higher-ups would decide the final 10 nominations. Nominations simply meant the candidate had earned a vote. Only those with 4 votes were able to represent the country in the World College Tournament. As for the source of the other 3 votes, it was a lot more complicated. They could come through support from renowned families, magic associations, or the military. It basically depended on the student's capability and reputation. Mo Fan already had 3 votes, yet those were more like tokens of appreciation, and he was quite lucky to get them, too. Therefore, it was important for him to earn the nomination, too. He was extremely excited when he learned about the structure of the tournament. A one-on-one battle was fun, but it basically came down to who had the higher cultivation and equipment most of the time. A group battle was more reliant on the skills of the participants, how to utilize their magic perfectly, which could even grant them a chance to turn the tables. Just like how he had worked together with Zhang Xiaohou and Zhao Manyan at the Drifting Sand River, this felt extremely good. The World College Tournament was obviously based on teamwork, too. Hence the preliminaries would also be testing the participants' abilities when working in a team. Tutu had become Mo Fan's little tail. The girl was a fun seeker and assumed that she would always find something interesting when following Mo Fan around, hence she energetically signed up for the nomination preliminaries on Mo Fan's behalf and helped him take the draw, too. Mo Fan spent most of his time cultivating. His ears were shut off from matters outside the window, yet he would still hear about all sorts of nonsense from Tutu's mouth that never stopped talking, including how the granddaughter of the school's guard had fallen in love with some renowned family's young master. Tutu was dying from boredom, so she was fairly passionate about signing Mo Fan up for the nomination preliminaries. After finishing the draw, she quickly visited the institute's forum. Once the draw was done, most participants would reveal their numbers on the forum and would organize a meet-up. Fairly quickly just to learn what elements each teammate had and practice together if needed. Tutu had made herself Mo Fan's secretary. When she saw someone assembling those with the same number, she quickly put on some makeup and went to meet the rest of the team. Mo Fan's teammates had gathered at the field. When Tutu arrived in her slightly exposed outfit, the other 3 had long been waiting for her. "Is your team number 11? Said a male student among the 3. "Ah, I know you. You're the handsome leader of the Lightning School, Gu Jian." Tutu's eyes flickered when she took a closer look at the student. The guy called Gu Jian wore a stiff expression as he glanced at Tutu. Beautiful women, busty women. Gu Jian had seen lots of them. He had no interest in women for the time being. Oh, it's only because his mind was occupied with thoughts of securing the nomination. Even when a woman was lying naked in his bed, he had promised himself that he would focus on cultivating instead. Gu Jian did not have a good first impression of Tutu, as he was worried that she was a vase. It was not ideal to lose their first duel. Even though the outcome did not matter, only by winning would he be able to showcase his exceptionalness. "Since everyone's here, let's first talk about the elements we have," said Gu Jian to the others like a captain. Tutu was only here on behalf of Mo Fan, who had gone to the 3-step tower to cultivate. She definitely needed to explain that to the team. Gu Jian immediately frowned and said, "Are you actually one of Team 11? Don't waste our time here, we still need to practice." Yeah I am," said Tutu in a panic. Tutu had long heard Gu Jian's famous name. The reason was that her aunt had asked her to meet the son from Gu family during the Lunar New Year. The meeting was basically a blind date. It was very common between renowned families, since Tutu was already at an age suitable for marriage. She was not passionate about her cultivation and was merely wasting her time fooling around. Her family had decided to let her marry someone instead so she could have a change of heart. Unfortunately, this Gu Jian was the one that her family was fond of. Ai Tutu had never thought Mo Fan would be grouped with the man who might be her fiancé in the near future. The man was extremely handsome and talented, one of the top students in the Lightning School. He did meet most of Ai Tutu's requirements. On second thought, Ai Tutu decided not to tell them she was only here on behalf of someone yet. She wanted to observe Gu Jian more with the opportunity given to her. So what elements do you have? Asked Gu Jian. My primary element is plant, and my secondary element is light, answered Ai Tutu. Oh, not bad. Since our team doesn't need more offensive magic, Gu Jian's expression improved slightly. Alright, let's start the training. It's better to be prepared. Good. Let's work together as a team, Ai Tutu said with a blossoming smile. Mo Fan, who was currently cultivating in the 3-step tower, never thought Ai Tutu would go so far. Even after Mo Fan left the 3-step tower, Ai Tutu still did not tell Mo Fan about the tournament. Little did he know, Ai Tutu had already impersonated him just so she could spend some time with the man she was interested in. Or more precisely, Mo Fan should have expected things to go wrong when he asked Ai Tutu, whose brain was full of papaya, to help him. Not only was Ai Tutu's brain inversely proportional to the size of her breasts, there was nothing she would not do. Swift Star Wolf, why are you running away? Where's your savagery as a wolf? A woo. Swift Star Wolf ran to the corner of the training ground, fighting a strong urge to burst into tears. It was the only place not covered in flames. The entire place was set aflame. A little girl with an appearance like a porcelain doll floated above the fierce flames, her petite figure totally made of fire. She was laughing pleasantly, yet the sound of it was like a signal of destruction for the Swift Star Wolf. Swift Star Wolf, fight like a man, go, little flame bell, go burn your Uncle Wolf, why are you burning your father instead? Stop, little flame bell, it's your fight, not mine, stop possessing my body. Holy shit, Swift Star Wolf, come back here, I'm not going to fight you when she possesses me, why are you running? Dimensional summoning, humph, where do you think you're running to? Chapter N. Versatile Mage. Chapter 533. That bitch. In a luxurious Western-style restaurant, Dongfang Lai slowly finished his dessert, wiped his mouth, and said to the person opposite him, "Is that so? He lost the first battle. Maybe we've been putting too much attention on him. It seems like the kid said to be a provisional candidate doesn't have anything up his sleeves," replied Zhou Shuming with a disdainful grin. "I wasn't really bothered by him, but you, the woman you're interested in is staying in the same house as him, God knows what would happen between them," said Dongfang Lai. Zhou Shuming's face turned dark as he glared at Dongfang Lai. The two were concerned whether Mo Fan was able to secure the nomination since it would determine if he was chosen for the World College Tournament. However, the good news was, Mo Fan had lost in the first battle. The losses would not be recorded on the score sheet, yet without winning, it was difficult to earn enough points. Basically, they had overestimated the guy. As Dongfang Lai had mentioned, if he were in a serious battle against the kid, he would easily defeat him in a few rounds. "How about the next battle? Who are his opponents?" asked Dongfang Lai. "Bai Yulang from the Magic Association. As for the other three, nothing outstanding, but since they're in the top 20, they won't be weak either. Bai Yulang, he's a tough opponent." The same night, on the same field, the 4 students from Team 11 who lost their first battle sat on the grass with unpleasant looks. Their opponent team did not have anyone famous, yet they still lost the battle. As such, it was likely that none of them had earned many points from it. Gu Jian had a gloomy look. He initially thought since his teammates were all in the top 20 in their element school, they would be somewhat reliable. To his surprise, even though they were fairly strong in one-on-one duels, they were slow when fighting in a team, nothing but burdens to him. He could easily suppress their opponents with a huge lightning spell. If they were any good, they would not have lost the battle. Gu Jian felt rather hopeless when he recalled that he still needed to fight another 2 battles in the same team. Mo Fan, what's wrong with you? Why did you try to trap them with the Forest of Kun? That guy had the shadow element, how could you possibly trap him? Scolded Gu Jian. Ai Tutu lowered her head, not daring to say a word. She did bear a huge responsibility for the team's loss. If she had managed to trap the water magician with her Forest of Kun and prevented him from casting Rolling Wave, it would not have shattered their formation. However, Ai Tutu cast it on a shadow magician. The plant element was almost useless against the shadow element. A simple fleeing shadow was enough to dodge the spell. Besides, I never knew we also had a girl called Mo Fan in our school, said Lu Xing with a weird look. Are you talking about that Mo Fan who is said to be a provisional candidate? He, I don't think the guy has anything to offer apart from being lucky. I'm glad he's not in our team. Well, this girl Mo Fan isn't any good either. Li Ji showed no mercy either. Alright, that's enough. Just make sure there won't be any mistakes in the next battle, said Gu Jian. The others did not comment on anything. Ai Tutu also promised that she would not make any mistakes in the next battle. Ai Tutu returned to the apartment in a bad mood. Her mouth did not stop murmuring. She admitted that she was not strong. Her strength was still a certain distance away from the top 20 in every school, yet they could not simply blame it all on her. I'll surprise them tomorrow, said Ai Tutu. Surprise who? Asked Mo Fan, walking in from the balcony with a chicken rib in his mouth. He had only taken a single bite of the chicken rib, but the flame bell who had smelled it immediately ran into the room. Mo Fan tried to take another bite, but all he got was air. The flame bell had already taken the chicken rib away. She crouched in a little corner and began munching it, sounding like a little mouse biting its food. No. Nothing, you must have heard it wrong, haha. Ai Tutu did not dare tell Mo Fan the truth. You're acting strange. By the way, I heard that the nomination preliminaries have already started. When is my turn? Oh, your number is fairly behind, said Ai Tutu. Mo Fan stared at Ai Tutu. Somehow, he felt like the girl was hiding something from him, yet she had always been strange since day one, so it was meaningless to ask any further. The following day, Ai Tutu woke up fairly early. Time had been running short. As a result, the institute had arranged 2 battles to take place simultaneously. The team had 2 battles in the morning, with almost no interval in between. Similarly, their opponents would be fighting their battles consecutively too. As such, the team would have to decide if they were going to go all out in the first battle, or preserve some energy to handle the second battle. Ai Tutu purposely asked her family to prepare a Death Strike magic equipment for her, so she could perform well today. Mo Fan had woken up just as Ai Tutu left the apartment. From his room, he happened to see Ai Tutu leaving in her shoes. It was rare to see her not wearing her heels. It's obvious that she's prepared for a fight. Mo Fan began to ponder with his jaw in his hand. After a slight hesitation, Mo Fan decided to take a look. The woman had been acting too strange lately. Mo Fan followed behind Ai Tutu, but somehow lost her on the way. The school was so huge that he had no clue where to look for her. Most importantly, he had spent almost 2 years in Pearl Institute, yet he suddenly realized that he had lost his sense of direction. He was running in circles for quite some time, yet he still could not find his way. Trees, paths, classrooms, laboratories, training grounds, where the hell was he now? Ah, that's the library. I finally found a landmark. Mo Fan finally recognized a familiar structure after passing a small wood plot. As Mo Fan arrived at the entrance of the library, he coincidentally stumbled into a woman whose black smooth hair had lots of little crystals dangling on it. She was holding a stack of books in her chest. Mo Fan. The woman blurted out in confusion when she saw him. Ding Yumian, you're always at the library. Mo Fan let out an awkward smile. Don't you have a duel today? Said Ding Yumian, blinking her eyes. Do I? Is it in the afternoon or at night? Asked Mo Fan, raising his brows. Ding Yumian shook her head. She raised her head to take a glance at the clock on the wall and said, It's happening now? Oh, it already started 10 minutes ago. Mo Fan smacked his lips. He was suddenly at a loss for words. I Tutu, that bitch. Chapter end. Versatile Mage. Chapter 534. A torrent of abuse. Ding Yumian was rather impressed by Mo Fan. As a student of Pearl Institute, he had spent almost 2 years here, either in the outer campus or the main campus, but he had still managed to get lost. Most importantly, the participants of the nomination preliminaries would take a shower and offer some incense sticks ahead of time to prepare for the duels, but Mo Fan did not even know he had a match today. When she led the guy with a poor sense of direction to the dueling ground, the match had almost come to an end. Your team is fighting the duel with only 3 people. They must have a huge grudge against you now, Ding Yumian said as she entered the stadium with Mo Fan. However, as Ding Yumian glanced at the dueling ground, she was left speechless instantly. 4 people. There were 4 people on the dueling ground. No one was missing. However, Mo Fan was standing right beside her. Who was the person replacing him in the battle? Mo Fan's face had fallen dark. He could feel millions of copies of the word fuck galloping through his heart. Did she impersonate you to participate in the battle? Ding Yumian found herself a comfortable seat. She seemed fairly intrigued. Her charming eyes were gleaming as she waited to see how the situation would develop. Mo Fan's expression could not turn any worse, but the match was still ongoing. He could not simply jump into the battle and drag I Tutu out of it to smack her ass. He could only watch the battle miserably, hoping that I Tutu would not mess it up too much. As he thought, nothing good came out of it when he asked the woman to help him with something. He had underestimated the size of the hole in her brain. God must have knocked over the cup containing wisdom when he was creating her and gave her large breasts to compensate for her loss. They're in a pinch, Ding Yumian calmly commented as she watched the battle. It's very obvious, Mo Fan nodded. On the dueling ground, Gu Jian's expression was extremely gloomy. He was seriously suspecting the girl called Mo Fan had simply come here to act cute. Was the plant element seriously her primary element? She pretty much had 0 accuracy when using the magic vine. Their opponents could easily dodge her spell without relying on wind track or earth wave. Brilliant light. Blind. I Tutu was aware that she was unable to use her plant element effectively, hence she stopped relying on it. When she saw Gu Jian was trapped between enemies, she immediately thought of using the light spell to blind the enemy, allowing Gu Jian to escape. However, the brilliant light, blind was unable to distinguish friend from foe. Not only would it blind the enemy, it would also blind her allies too. It required the light magician to have good control of the distance and angle to work as they intended. Gu Jian's wrist was glowing with a lightning strike. He was planning to paralyze one of his opponents with the spell and use his boots equipment to escape their flank. To his shock, I Tutu's brilliant light suddenly blinded him. He totally lost sight of his target. While Gu Jian was blinded, a thick ice chain slapped him fiercely. His eyes were still burning in pain, so there was no chance for him to dodge the attack. The chain struck his abdomen with great force and sent him flying. He was wearing magic armor, which was also his last line of defense. After Gu Jian was injured, their team no longer had enough firepower. They were defeated rather quickly. The outcome was decided. They had lost the battle again. Team 16, win. Following the declaration by the referee, the students from Team 16 immediately burst out in smiles. Their captain, Bai Yulang, burst out laughing as if he were mocking Gu Jian. He kept on making some weird noises. Gu Jian did not get along well with Bai Yulang. The defeat totally detonated the fury in his chest. Are you out of your mind? Didn't you know that the brilliant light would blind me too? Did you make it to the top 20 by climbing into your opponent's bed? Dumb like a pig, I don't want to see you again. Gu Jian pointed at Ai Tutu and vented his anger through a torrent of curses. He could not care less after he was overwhelmed by anger. He had lost 2 of the 3 most important matches in the nomination preliminaries. He was getting further away from securing the nomination, and it was all thanks to this dumb woman. The first loss, he put up with. The second loss, he could not bear any longer, even when the crowd was watching and the person he was scolding was a girl. Annoying, so damn annoying. Gu Jian's voice echoed throughout the dueling ground as he fully expressed the thoughts in his mind. The place was not too crowded, yet everyone clearly heard what he said. His teammates, Li Ji and Lu Xing, were stunned. They were feeling angry too, yet they would not scold the girl straight away right in front of the crowd. The truth was, the girl did perform better in the second battle. The brilliant light in the end was only because Gu Jian was in a pinch. The whole place fell deadly quiet at Gu Jian's sudden roar. Soon, the sound of crying broke the silence. Ai Tutu was stunned for a few seconds before she buried her face in her hands and burst into tears. Gu Jian's words were extremely unpleasant to the ears, basically stabbing her right in the heart. Even Ai Tutu, who was always fooling around, completely broke down in front of the crowd. She knew that she was treating it as something fun to do when she decided to impersonate their teammate. However, when she saw the depressed expressions after losing the first battle, she no longer treated it as a joke. She was very serious in the second battle and even had her family spend a fortune to prepare a Death Strike magic equipment for her. The Death Strike magic equipment did come in handy, but their opponents were stronger than the team in the last match. Their team's overall strength was weaker. As they lost the battle, she initially thought Gu Jian would try and comfort her since her performance today was a lot better, yet to her surprise, all she got was a scolding. As the sound pierced through her heart, tears burst out from her eyes. What the hell are you crying for? Piss off. Don't let me see you again, snapped Gu Jian. He had already assumed the girl would be a burden when he first saw her. He never thought she would be even more useless than he had imagined. Gu Jian, forget it. Yeah, we still have the third match coming up. She was just trying to help you out, advised Li Ji. What's the point of fighting the third match when this woman is on our team? Gu Jian was still consumed by anger. Ai Tutu could no longer believe that the man condemning her so loudly was someone her family was fond of. Her only thought now was to leave the place. Holding her face, Ai Tutu ran toward the exit in disappointment and bumped into someone's chest. The chest was not wide, yet it felt very sturdy. She was about to walk around when the person spread his arms and hugged her. Ai Tutu raised her head and realized that the person was Mo Fan. She felt like she was being electrocuted. When she recalled how Mo Fan had witnessed the scolding and her foolish act of impersonating him, she suddenly felt too ashamed to show her face. Gu Jian was just someone that her family was fond of. She could simply ignore him by hardening her heart, but Mo Fan was her friend, her housemate, and she was scared that Mo Fan would scold her too. After all, because of her, he had now lost 2 important battles. Chapter End. Versatile Mage. Chapter 535. You're the one who's hopeless. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Ai Tutu was like a hurt little stray cat, no longer showing her usual playfulness as she apologized to Mo Fan with red eyes. She would not apologize to Gu Jian. She had never treated someone like him seriously, but it was not the same for Mo Fan. He was her friend. Glancing at the hurt Ai Tutu, Mo Fan patted her head. He had no intention of blaming her. They had known each other for quite some time. Mo Fan was extremely familiar with Ai Tutu's personality, thus even when she foolishly impersonated him in the battles, he would simply feel speechless and only give her a fair warning. But she was a woman, after all. Even if she had done something wrong, she did not deserve to be scolded in front of the crowd like Gu Jian had. Mo Fan would never do that to Ai Tutu, even if the girl had screwed up all 3 of the matches. He would never use foul language on her. Him being close to I-Tutu was only part of the reason, but most importantly, a man should never behave like scum to a woman. Don't cry, it's okay, Mo Fan sighed. You don't blame me. I-Tutu raised her head. Her red eyes stared at Mo Fan in disbelief. You did cross the line this time, but it's not the end of the world. Besides, did you forget? I'm already a provisional candidate. There's a chance I wouldn't even be here for the nomination preliminaries if you hadn't suggested it, Mo Fan smiled. I-Tutu glanced at the man. At such a close distance, she suddenly discovered that the Demon King was as warm as the sun when he was smiling, very handsome, shining warmth into her heart. But, I still have to apologize to you. Sorry, I'll try to make up for it, I-Tutu said firmly. Alright, I accept that, but... Mo Fan turned his head slightly, locking his gaze onto Gu Jian, who was still cursing at his teammates, but, I'll even the score first, and we'll talk about how you'll make up for it. Mo Fan let go of the stray cat I-Tutu and had her sit down to take a rest. Ding Yumian sat in her seat quietly. She handed I-Tutu a bottle of water, having her calm down first. She then switched her focus back to Mo Fan, who was walking toward Gu Jian. She was curious to see what Mo Fan had in mind. She was a psychic magician, hence she was able to sense the anger in Mo Fan's calm black eyes, hidden under his indifferent expression. You're Gu Jian. Mo Fan walked up to Gu Jian and asked calmly. What do you want? Are you here for that woman? Gu Jian was not blind. He clearly saw I-Tutu falling into the man's arms, but his eyes were full of disdain. It was most likely that the girl had used her body to climb into the top 20. It was reasonable some man would step forward to protect her. Nothing much. I just want to tell you that if you start crawling to her from where I am, and give yourself 3 loud slaps to the face and apologize to her, I'll forgive what you've said to her. On top of that, I would like to say, go fuck yourself. Mo Fan stood in front of Gu Jian. He purposely emphasized the last few words, enough for the entire crowd to hear it clearly. Gu Jian's face fell dark immediately. He was still overwhelmed by anger. He pointed at Mo Fan and snapped, who the fuck do you think you are? You better piss off as far as you can before I have the urge to cripple someone. It's clear that you can't win the battle yourself, yet you still blamed it on a girl. The difference between you and a dog is, at least a dog is born through regular intercourse, yet a crossbreed like you, must be something your mum farted out after she turned pregnant from eating some shit. Replied Mo Fan. The cursing popped the eyes of Ding Yumian and I-Tutu wide open. First, they could not understand the logic of the statement. Second, they were astonished by Mo Fan's skill at cursing. Everyone at the scene was a magician, a student of an institute that was a pillar of the nation, yet the man said something so wild, unpleasant, and illogical when cursing someone, but why did it feel rather pleasant to their ears? The whole place fell quiet all of a sudden, the filthy words still echoing in their ears. Some of the girls were utterly confused by what he had said, and turned to the wicked boys nearby to get an explanation. You. Gu Jian had used up all the foul language in his vocabulary. He was at a loss for words to return the favor. He could feel blood rising in his throat from the grudge in his chest. Mo Fan was raised by common people. A person like Gu Jian was no match for him. Getting cocky when you only know how to scold someone. Come face me in a duel instead. I'll make you regret insulting me today, swore Gu Jian, his finger pointing at Mo Fan as he finally collected his thoughts. You do know that scolding a person isn't something to be proud of, but weren't you the one feeling good when you were scolding my friend I-Tutu? Said Mo Fan with a smirk. Gu Jian felt like he had simply dropped the rock he was carrying onto his feet. His expression fell dark when he saw the crowd laughing at him. However, he would never admit his wrong. Was I wrong? It's true that her strength isn't worthy to take part in the nomination preliminaries. Why can't I scold a letdown like her? You lost because you're bad. You never stood a chance against them. said Mo Fan. Hee hee, so you think you're good. I'll make this clear, if it weren't the rules that prohibit the students to duel against one another outside of the assigned matches during the nomination preliminaries, I would have smashed you into a coma by now. You should be glad that the rules have protected you this time, since I don't want to destroy my future because of a trash like you. There's no way we could win as long as that stupid woman is on our team, said Gu Jian. Mo Fan was aware how much of a scum this Gu Jian was, yet the referees were still watching them. They would simply interfere and stop the fight if he tried to beat this scum up, and it was obvious that Gu Jian would simply stay close to the referees. He uttered a hollow laugh and said to Gu Jian, "You've said it yourself, dare to make a bet with me. I don't mind saying it again, everyone here can testify it, this woman is the reason we lost, what's the bet for?" Gu Jian was obviously trying to protect his image. "I'll fight the third battle in your place with the same teammates, those two guys and her, if I win, you'll fucking do what I say, crawl to where she is, slap yourself 3 times in the face and apologize to her." Mo Fan was extremely disgusted by the scum. What an asshole. If the referees weren't around, he would have beaten the crap out of the guy. Gu Jian was stunned. Gu Jian glanced at his surroundings and saw that everyone was looking at him. He could not decline the man's dare, as he would simply be denying his own words. "Alright, but if you lose, oh, I remember that there's a lawn in front of my apartment. Lots of annoying people would walk the dogs there, so there are dog poops everywhere. You can split them with that stupid woman and eat them all," snapped Gu Jian. "Gu Jian, your condition is even more unreasonable." His teammate Li Ji could not stand him any further. Gu Jian glared back at him. Mo Fan did not care, since he would simply accept any condition given to him. A few months ago, Mo Fan would not have acted so recklessly, but he was feeling very confident now that the flame bell had reached her youth stage. "Very well, referees, please help to testify to this bet, too," Mo Fan turned around and said to the referees. The 3 referees were actually some young teachers of the institute. Although they were pretending to feel helpless when the students were quarreling, they were actually looking forward to it in their hearts. Damn, it was much more exciting to be the referee for fights like this. Speaking of which, this student who came in after the fight, he was a real man. That being said, they could not simply ignore the rules. One of the referees spoke up. "It's something personal between you, and fine as long as you both accept it, but we won't be giving you high points for your performance. We'll still follow the standard when judging your opponents. If you're fine with that, we won't mind." "That's fine by me, since we won't be able to fight the third match even without this mess," said Li Ji. Losing nodded too, implying that he would rather fight the last battle with the wild man on his team than forfeiting it. Besides, for some reason, the fellow looked rather familiar to him. Chapter end. Please guys like, comment, share, and subscribe.